wanted to give you some updates on how everything that's going on has been affecting my life, as well as just, I want to start doing a weekly vlog, basically just updating you on what I did last week, what I plan on doing this upcoming week, like any random things going on in my life. And honestly, I'm making these videos for a few different reasons. One is it's just fun. I wanted to start documenting a little bit more of my journey in a way that's just freeform. On my main YouTube channel, which I think most people probably watching this know me from, everything I do, I really try to do the best quality content I can. I script, I think about for hours, like what am I gonna say? I don't do a lot of just kind of like run and gun stuff. A lot of it is very scripted. Scripted might not be the right word, but thought out. Where this, I wanna do a little bit more raw and actually just tell you, hey, this is what happened last week, and not have to come up with like a clickbaity title and thumbnail, not have to come up, and again, I don't think that my videos are super clickbaity, but like, I want this just to be free-form conversation. You'll see in my videos a lot of times there's a lot of cutting. It's because like I want to say every single line perfect. And honestly, when I got into YouTube, I wasn't like that at all. I was very much just like, hey, let's just go with it. Let's just have fun. So anyways, I want to give you some updates on what's going on with my life. So obviously, if you're not living under a rock, which you're probably not if you're watching this, last week was the height of the coronavirus, at least for me in the US, all that kind of stuff. Could it get worse? Yeah, it definitely could. I spent most of last week self-quarantined, more or less, which isn't insanely different than how I normally live my life. I mean, I've shown you before, like this is usually, I work right here and then I hang out in this apartment. But the big difference for me is I love going out and getting exercise. I love going out and either, going to classes, going to jujitsu, I do yoga, I do like all these different things. There's a weekly there's a group meditation I go do sometimes. And it's funny because probably the week before, or maybe even 2 weeks before the whole outbreak and they started like locking everything down, I felt like I was getting in a really good flow. And it's funny because actually before that, about 5 weeks, 6 weeks ago, I felt like I was getting in a good flow, and then I got really sick, like the most sick I've gotten in years. I got so sick, I forgot what it was like to be sick. I got so sick. Now, I don't think I had the coronavirus. Some people I know were saying, hey, maybe you got it. I don't think so, because at that time there was almost nobody in LA that had it. But I forgot what it was like to be sick. And it wasn't the fun. For the last 10 years, when I would get sick, it was kind of that like, oh, I don't feel great, I'm gonna watch TV. And it was actually like enjoyable because I tend to work really hard. And so if I am sick, it's an excuse to like lay around and watch TV. It was so bad, I haven't done these updates in a while. It was so bad, I couldn't do any work. I was just not like beyond burnt out. I was just completely dead. Now I do wanna try to, see this is the thing. Usually in my YouTube videos, I'm trying to make every single second is quick and full of information as possible. Right now, I'm rambling a little bit more. And obviously that's not gonna be everyone's style, but I'm gonna try to make sure that these videos have as much good content as possible. So let me jump to some good content and then I'll go back and forth. You can see that I struggle. So some big things, you know what, let me talk about what I did last week. I'll talk about what I plan on doing this week, and I'll share some different things. Like I'll share, this is my planning strategy, some good tips that I have as well. But last week, just some things that I did is I ended up spending Monday, actually, I'm helping someone with their YouTube channel. I don't know how much I've talked about on this channel, but I used to have a lot of pain. I used to have back pain, hip pain, shoulder pain, and those things do flare up every once in a while for me. I used to work out, I used to be like a lot buffer. I wonder if I can, maybe I'll show a picture, an old picture of me, but I used to be a lot more muscular, and I probably was like closer to 200 pounds. I'm at like 160 now. And the reason is I had so many injuries, and I was lifting weights, but at a certain point why am I lifting weight? Like, who am I trying to impress? And at the same time, I'm in pain all the time, So the camera's, I'm a little bit further than I thought I was. All right, let's scoot it up. This is how you know it's real and raw. But I was in a lot of pain, and I would still keep lifting weights. I'd still keep working out really hard. And I ended up meeting somebody. I ended up paying for these sessions. There's a treatment style that I found out about from the 4-Hour Body, which is Tim Ferriss's book. And it's called Egoscue, and there was an Egoscue in Santa Monica. This was when I didn't even live in Santa Monica. This is when I was at home with my parents, and I drove, the hour down to the Egoscue down here, And I met this guy who was coaching me, and he really helped me. He was like the first person I ever met that I felt like actually not only got rid of some of the pain, but like brought back some of the functionality. Because I had shoulder issues and all that different stuff. Anyways, over the last few years, I've done a trade with him where basically I'm gonna help him out with his YouTube in exchange for, he's gonna help me out with my body in exchange for me helping him out with his YouTube, but he's been so focused on other things, he hasn't had time to allow me to help him out with his YouTube channel, to help him marketing. His goal is to create 6 figures passive income, which I've done, and I'm really good at doing, but he hasn't had time to really develop his marketing. But now I'm starting to help him a little bit more. We had a little bit of a disagreement. That's more personal stuff. I'm not gonna get into that too much. Maybe this is important actually. There's a few different things that I've learned that is really interesting from some of these experiences. And I'm not gonna say any names or not get too personal or whatever. And by no means at any point am I ever trying to say anything negative about anyone in any part of my life. But it's just interesting, like when you interact with other people, you can learn a lot about yourself, because a lot of the negative thoughts I might have about how someone is handling a situation is really a reflection of like what's going on in my inner self. So for instance, me, Ariana and I, like when we interact and I get really frustrated or mad at her, it's usually not that I'm actually mad at her per se. It's mad that I'm mad at this like projection of myself, because I think, why would you do that? Because I don't understand what she's doing. So I think about what she's doing from my point of view and say, man, if I was doing that, it's because I'm, there's so many complicated examples here. But I guess the point I'm trying to say, you can see maybe what I'm saying is in your life, so here's an example just to make things a little bit more concrete. Ariana might burn some cookies because she didn't set the timer, which to me really bothers me, because it's like, how, do everything very procedural and be very structured, where she's like, I don't know, let's leave it in for a little bit and see what happens. Or maybe she makes a recipe and she doesn't follow the recipe. She just is like, I think it needs a little bit more flour. Like she goes with like how she feels. Where I'm like, no, the recipe said 1 cup of flour, let's use 1 cup of flour. And so I'll get really frustrated at her because I don't understand what's going on with her. And there's this part of myself that I don't understand. There's this part of myself that just wants to be free and be like, whatever, forget the recipe. Let's go, let's just do whatever we feel like doing. And I've kind of suppressed that part of me, the part of me that feels, in all honesty. And so when she shows that part of her, I want to suppress it, because I'm like, no, that's not how it should be, because I've had success in my life by suppressing the feeling part and really focusing on the thinking part. Now, this is a super complicated topic. I'm going to be doing a lot of videos on some of this stuff I've learned in the future, but super complicated topic. Anyways, I had a little bit of a disagreement with the guy that's been helping me with the coaching, and I think there's a few different things that I learned from it, and part of it is how do I explain it? Any goal you set out in your life, if it's a big enough goal, you're gonna have to change as a person to be able to reach that goal. You're gonna have to fundamentally change. Part of the reason I lost so much muscle is because I had a choice. I could either stay in pain and be identified with who I was. I was someone that was strong, I was muscular, blah, blah, blah. But that person, to stay in that way, I had to be in pain. So if I wanted to get rid of my pain, it sucks, but I had to get rid of some of my muscularity because I wasn't gonna be able to work out and lift weights as heavily. And if I'm gonna get rid of my muscularity, I have to change as a human. I have to identify, I can't identify with that old me anymore. And I have to realize that, because for a long time, what made me proud of me was my squat or my bench press. Like I was really proud of that. And all of a sudden I lost all of that. I had to lose all of that to get to the next level in my own personal journey, my own personal life. And in interacting with this person, interacting with my coach, my body coach, I realized the same is true for everyone. And I'm sure he realized it on some level, but it was so obvious to me, this idea that he's gonna have to change because he's thinking about the world in one way, and to get to his goal, he has to kind of switch and let go of some of his old ideas and incorporate some new ones. And I'm sure he would have a different side of this. I'm not by no means like playing sides, but this is how my mind worked. And I realized that some of the stuff I was telling him to do that's marketing, he felt like it wasn't gonna help people, so it was bad. And I totally fundamentally disagreed. Like I told him to release some videos And these videos, he's like, well, these videos aren't gonna help people. Like four hacks, 4 shoulder pain hacks. And he's like, yeah, but people are gonna watch these and they're not gonna do the exercises, so I'm not helping anyone. And I'm like, you are helping people because they're gonna watch the video and maybe only 0.1% of people will try them. But first off, there's 0.1% of people you're gonna help. But even the people that never try it, they're gonna look at this video and it's gonna bring them one step closer to getting the help they need. Now, I could go on a whole tangent about this, but basically, you know, I ended up really, I think, upsetting him. And because we had this fundamental disagreement and he had certain views and I wasn't gonna back down, I really said, hey, this is how it is. You know, I'm an expert at this. Anyways, moral of the story is, because we had this disagreement, I ended up spending Monday really just writing out a super long document, step by step, like trying to translate some of my ideas, because we're both seeing the world from different points of view. And I tried to write out this long document explaining how YouTube works, because we disagreed on some fundamental things on, at least from my perspective, some fundamental things on how YouTube and the algorithm and human psychology works in some ways. And I feel like I know human psychology and YouTube algorithm very well. I know human psychology, at least in the terms of the YouTube algorithm, or like in social media tense. But anyways, this is not how I expected this video to go. So I worked on that on Monday. I sent a wire for some macadamia nuts. I bought like over 1,000 pounds of macadamia nuts. It was over $10,000 worth of macadamia nuts. And they're supposed to get there on time for my production run, which is gonna be next week, which is a big update. I'm having a production run next week and they're not gonna get there on time. So that's gonna be a big issue. I mean, it's not a huge issue. Basically next week, we're gonna do about 3,100 pounds of nut butter. If I would've got those macadamia nuts in time, we would've done closer to 3,400 pounds, but I'm gonna pay the same price for the 3,100 or the 3,400, so that's kind of frustrating. Tuesday, I actually ended up doing, and I'll do another video about this. I joined a $25,000 mastermind, and it's by this guy, Eben Pagan. I mean, I'll do a future video if you guys are interested, if you want me to hear about Eben Pagan. He completely changed my life in a lot of different ways, but basically he's the one that got me into the whole idea of internet marketing in the first place, like over 10 plus years ago. In fact, in a lot of ways, he's the one that taught me that every single aspect of your life can be improved. I'd say my dad really taught me this idea that you can improve yourself, but then Eben Pagan took it to the next level and said, yeah, but like you can improve every part of yourself. Like with my dad, I realized, we worked a lot with football. Like I played football for 8 years. I was pretty good. I ended up not playing in college. I probably could have played lower levels, nothing fancy. I wasn't gonna get a scholarship, but I was one of the best players on my team and definitely one of the best players in like a little district or whatever. But so my dad taught me basically that you can learn anything. It just takes practice and reps, or basically you can get better at anything to some degree, but then more from like I really understood it from a physical perspective. With my dad also, I remember at a young age, I thought I was bad at spelling, and we'd have spelling tests in school, and my dad sat down with me and said, okay, we're gonna write each of these words 20 times. We're gonna do he did all this different stuff, and I started getting like 100% on all the spelling tests, and I'm like, oh, I'm not bad at spelling anymore, what happened? But I think with Eben Pagan, the first book I read of his was actually on dating and how to basically interact with women, which is something I thought I was pretty mediocre at. And he made me realize, oh, you can get better at this skill. I thought people were born with certain things, and that was how it was. Then also he got me into the whole idea of self-development, like reading self-help books and all that kind of stuff. So anyways, I joined his mastermind. It's $25,000. I'll give you a secret. I got a discount. I got basically half off. I basically told him I'd help him with some YouTube stuff, and I'm a little bit more, I think, advanced than the average person in the course. So a lot of the stuff that he was offering in his $25,000 mastermind didn't really fully apply to me. Though I'm still gonna, I think it'll still help me. So I did that call on Tuesday. It's funny, a lot of times the week's a little bit of a blur, which is always kind of scary. I actually write down my to-dos in this book every day. I reviewed it a little bit before this call. I won't bore you with that. One big thing though I'm gonna talk about what I'm gonna be doing this week as well. But one big thing I did actually was I ended up, on Thursday, I did a call with all my coaching clients. Sorry, not coaching clients. I did a call with all the new people that joined the group, the course. And this was really cool. This is something I actually really enjoyed doing. There's still some people that I'm gonna do calls with next week, but it was like 10 calls I did on that one day. Just did like a little 10 to 20 minute introduction call with each person. And I wasn't doing that in the past, but that's something I'm gonna start doing. I'm not gonna advertise it on my course just yet, but it's like a little extra bonus. I wanna start making, so part of the reason I joined this Eben Pagan Mastermind was it's how to be a better coach is the whole point. It's called the Virtual Coach Accelerator. It's how to coach people and make them better at whatever you're trying to do. So for me, obviously it's launching a passion product. And what I've realized, and this kind of ties into what I was saying earlier, if you set a goal, if you want to be, my goal is to make 6 figures passive income a year, though you're going to have to change as a person to do that, more than likely. Like unless you've already done it 20 times and it's just like, like some people are going to take my course because they want like a little bit of tactics. But if you've never hit $100,000, 6 figures passive income, it's freaking not easy. Like you're going to have to change and develop as a person, and you're going to have to enhance yourself. And I love it. I think it's one of the best self-development tools out there is growing businesses. But to do that, I'm going to have to help people. I'm going to have to help coach people. And I think a lot of people aren't going to like that, but a lot of success with business is your mindset. For instance, if everything was taken away from me and I started from zero, and you took me 7 years ago, which he had 0 as well, I would crush him. No offense, old Travis, but I would crush him. And it's obvious to everybody listening. Why? Because not only do I have the experience, but I have like that deep knowing that I can do it. The old Travis was fearful. He was like, I don't know. In fact, if you took me 7 years ago versus me right now and took away everything and said, okay, but you have to find success in a completely new, venture. Like you can't take any of the knowledge you've learned, quote unquote. Like, I couldn't do YouTube. I'd be able to deconstruct it and figure it out so much faster. One, because I believe in myself so much more, but also I figured out the systems and formulas to find success. Not just in one domain, but lots of different domains. And I think that's the mindset stuff that I want to start coaching people through, and realizing there's this idea. And I'm gonna do some videos. I hope you guys are interested in this. I'm gonna be doing some videos on the hero's journey and myths and legends and what they're myths. It's fascinating. All myths are trying to teach us something deeply about how our brains work, how human psychology works. And there's the hero's journey, which is Joseph Campbell took all the myths throughout like all the different societies and figured out all the commonalities they have, and they basically all follow the same path. This is why when you watch movies, all movies are basically the same. It's basically the same movie. It's basically the same story, just told in different ways. And in stories, there's this idea that there's all heroes, which is you, which is me. Anytime you set a really big goal and you try to achieve it, you're entering the hero's journey in your mind. And if you don't easily hit your goal, which most people don't, if it's a big goal, you're not gonna hit it. If you're struggling with a goal right now, a big reason why is there's something, I forget exactly what they call it right now, but it's like every human has like the mortal flaw, or there's a better word for it. But basically every hero has some kind of flaw that they can't see, something that's holding them back from getting the success they want. And they may even think it's their strength. For instance, for me, I thought being very analytical, logical, thinking and not feeling was the key to success. I looked down on people that made decisions based on feeling. And I still struggle with that a little bit. But it wasn't until I realized the power of feeling, and this is gonna sound fun. You know what, me 3, 4, 5 years ago would have been like, what are you talking about? Once I realized the power of feeling, it's a superpower. Because we're not robots. When you completely are logical and analytical and you say, okay, well, I'm gonna work 40 hours a week, I'm gonna structure my week like this, blah, 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 that might work for a few weeks, but then you're gonna burn yourself out. And the reason is sometimes you just don't feel like working. And when you really deeply don't feel like working, if you push yourself and try to work, sometimes that could lead to burnout. Now, it's a little bit complicated of a subject because again, it depends on how it feels. There's times where you don't feel like working, but you gotta slap yourself in the face and say, hey, I'm going to work because I need to do it. But there's times where you don't feel like working and it's like a deep like, look man, I need a break. And that's the part of you need to listen to. And it's very complicated. I might do a video about this on thinking versus feeling in the future, which might be a little bit more structured than this video. But this is just like a quick update video. Honestly, I'm trying to treat this video as if I'm sitting down with you, a friend, and just kind of giving you an update on what happened last week and what I plan on doing this week. So one thing I want to ask of you, I don't know how many people are actually going to watch this. If you've watched to this point in the video, can you just leave a comment? Just let me know that, like, you know, whatever. You can say, hey, I have watched. Let me know what you like, what you don't like as well. I don't always check all the comments for my main channel because there's so many people that comment and so many people that comment like weird negative stuff. But for this channel, I plan on responding to a lot more comments because, you know, if you're watching this video this far, you're probably interested. So let me skip around. And if you guys like this kind of rambly, like where I give you my thoughts and advice and biggest lessons learned, I will for sure do that. But if it's not something you guys are interested in, you know, let me know. Some other notes actually from last week that's really important. I didn't get a lot of sleep last week. I probably had a bunch of nights in a row, starting like around Wednesday or so, where I was only getting, maybe Tuesday night, I started getting only 4 to 6 hours of sleep, like very, very little sleep. And that really screwed me up. Yeah, so that was tough. And then there's a bunch of other lessons learned, but let's talk about next week. So every week I go through a list of questions. At the end of the week, I try to reflect on the week and I ask myself, what was the most important thing I did? Which last week, the most important thing I did was probably all those calls with all the new members of the Passion Products Formula. Then I talk about all the different lessons learned. I've talked about some of the lessons I've learned in this video. And then I talk about how could I have made last week even better? For me, last week, if I could have made it even better, it would have been by getting more sleep. I didn't get as much sleep as I would have liked. And part of that would be eating earlier. I've been eating at like 7 o'clock, which is a little late for me. I think like 5 or 6 o'clock. I can talk about that in the future. I've been thinking about skipping lunches and just having a bigger dinner. I know a lot of people do one meal a day, but when I eat lunch, my energy tends to dip a little bit. So and then I always ask myself, and then I write down notes and stuff about the week. And then for the next week, on Sundays usually, I say, what would make this week fun, great? And I wrote down cooking a fancy dinner, a bottle of wine with Ariana and me, and a dance party afterwards. So Ariana and I want to just like go to the room, listen to some music, and just like dance and have a good time. Like usually we're just watching TV. And especially with this whole quarantine lockdown thing, we've just been like stuck inside watching TV, which is super boring. And it's fun for a little bit. It's fun to watch movies and stuff every once in a while, but we want to do more of that. And then some plans for next week. I always write down too, like what's the most important thing I can do this coming week. I said gearing up, getting ready for the launch of Kakao, and also maybe possibly hiring someone. I'm not gonna talk about it too much, but I found 2 people that I'm thinking about hiring both of them. And one can only work for 20 hours a week. He's brilliant. I think he's gonna kill it. And then there's another guy that can work for 40 hours a week. He's got a ton of energy, but I think he needs a little bit of direction. I already offered one person the position, the 20 hours a week person. The person that's 40 hours a week, I'm gonna offer him a position as well. Though it might be slightly, I don't know if the deal is gonna be good enough for him. Like, I don't know if he's gonna want the deal that I have, but hopefully he does. And then I'm also gonna film some videos. I've been really happy. I've been killing it on, if you search Amazon FBA, if you open up YouTube and search Amazon FBA, and it changes based on your profile and your preferences, but my videos have been like number 1, 2, and 3 a lot recently, at least 1 and 2, and I've been really happy with that. Like that was a goal of mine for a long time. About a year and a half ago, I thought that was impossible. I didn't have any Amazon FBA videos, and I'm like, you know, I'm gonna focus on this and I wanna crush it on the Amazon FBA front. And I feel like I'm right now one of the top Amazon FBA, honestly, in some ways, maybe the top quote unquote Amazon FBA YouTuber, depending on what metrics you use and stuff. Like there's people that have more subscribers than me, but if you search, at least last I checked, I haven't checked my stats this weekend, but last I checked, if you search Amazon FBA and you filter by channels, my channel's been like number 1, which is crazy. So that's a pretty big metric. I'm sure other YouTubers are claiming that they're the number 1 Amazon FBA YouTuber. I don't have an ego about it. It's cool that I'm one of the top ones currently. And you know, there's a lot that I want to talk about here, and I don't want to ramble too much. And it's funny. I think it is a lot more fun having like a back and forth conversation. So maybe in the future I'll bring Ariana on and we can kind of do like some updates and talk about each of our lives. Like maybe we could do one video with her and where she talks about like her week and I kind of ask her questions and she does one, you know, vice versa. But again, let me know what kind of questions you guys have for me, like deep random questions that I won't answer necessarily on my main YouTube channel because it's, you know, my main YouTube channel right now is about Amazon FBA. My main YouTube channel is about passion products, and every video I put on there, I want it to be really good. And these videos, I'm gonna go with the flow. You know, like this video's not gonna get a ton of views, period. But if you are watching it, hit that like button, and yeah, make sure to subscribe. I will say that too, and I'll start linking to some other videos that I'm doing on here as well. But you know what? I'm just gonna end it like that. Thank you guys for watching.